Hello everyone, Anita here, and welcome to another art chat. Oh, I have a problem with focusing over there. Today we are going to talk about how I approach drawing a scene. This question has been asked to me by Mali in the comments under one of my videos, and I thought it was a really interesting question because I've never actually thought about how I think about drawing. So yeah, I prepared my sketchbooks here. And I have a few pictures that I would like to show you. These are going to go on the side. This is the first picture I want to talk about. This is actually, I don't think I've ever shown this picture before. It might have appeared on my Facebook page. But this is the first picture of a series of 5 illustrations that I've prepared for myself. And it's a very good example of a scene because it's a personal project and it's exactly the way I would like it to be. I wanted it to be. So as you can see, the way I sketch is really messy, and I actually work on a lot of details straight on the paper, on the final sketch. Actually, majority of the planning process is taking place in my head, because I don't really have the time to spend, at least at that time. Now, this is actually quite an old illustration. I've started working on them last year. They're still not finished. So while I was working, I've learned to plan a lot of these illustrations in my head beforehand so that I wouldn't have to waste time while, in my free time when I could just draw. And so a lot of the planning takes place in my head. And for example, when I get the idea that I want to draw a certain illustration. So in this case, I knew I wanted to draw a story about this magical store. And so I was thinking the whole time how I can present this store so that, there's quite a certainty that this building is somewhere, where people are visiting, and that you can see that this is a store, although I kind of imagine that you probably can. There are people walking back from the place with bags, and there's a sign above the door. There's a person waving here to the customers. So all these details, every time I'm drawing, I'm trying to think, if a person who looks at it the first time, will they know exactly what I had in mind? So I'm trying to kind of convey a message through adding all those tiny little details. And so, as I said, all of these things first appear in my head. When I was planning this building, I actually checked a lot of pictures on the internet, especially Pinterest. That's my kind of like a temple I go to. And usually I check different kind of houses. For example, for this one, I would probably look for fairy tale houses or old European houses. So for example, in this case, and that's actually most of my pictures, private pictures especially, I will think about this picture as if I was in that scene. So for example, if I draw a store, I would think of myself as the owner of this building, and I will think from a perspective of someone who created this place, how I would create it if it was mine. So anything I drew here, I'm thinking I would be perfectly happy of owning this myself, because that's how I feel that then it's more genuine, because this place, I really, really care for it because it's mine. And I'm trying to draw every single picture in the same way. So that's one of the things. I always picture myself being part of the illustration I'm drawing, by being part of that world. It's much easier for me to imagine that world when I'm part of it. Another thing I pay attention, and that's more of a technical thing, I suppose. I'm trying to add as many details as possible, but this is something of a personal taste. Not everybody likes it, not everybody will add it to their pictures. This is something really personal. I really like when pictures have a lot of things to look at. Like every time I look into a picture, I will see something new. That's when I know that I really love an illustration. And so I will add things that you can kind of find once you look closely. Now, in this case, there aren't that many because there are so many little elements already to the final picture, to the main idea, that there was not enough space for me to add more. So the biggest one that I could point here is the owl. The owl doesn't serve any purpose to the actual illustration, to the story in the illustration, but it gives an extra point of interest. I did it on purpose that it does not stand out. It's kind of part of this foreground shape of the trees. It doesn't stand out on its own, but if you look closer, you will see that there is another element to that tree. And I find that a lot more interesting than just a bare tree. Of course, my main concern is to kind of drag the person who watches into the picture, to see that building. But, you know, someone might just stop at the very edge of it and see, you know, what's in the foreground. That's why I'm adding a lot of the little textures on the tree bark and the lanterns, the foreground characters, because I wanted to have like points of interest in all the layers. I could probably get away with just having a plain foreground when there is just, you know, plants and nothing else. I could probably put this pair a little closer to the house and get away with that. But I felt it was more genuine this way. It felt more interesting this way. And as you can see, there is a big difference between my original sketch and the final pictures. Mostly, you know, the elements are all there. So we have this couple here. There is a mother and daughter in the front of the bridge, and there's a person on the stairs. There's also this couple, even though they look completely different, there is also this couple here in the front. But the bridge is a little bit in a different shape. This was, for me, sketches don't really serve any other purpose than just to make sure that the idea I have in my head, you know, makes sense as the initial sketch, and then I work all the other details on the paper itself. Very lightly, though. You don't want to, you know, rub too much. So that's it. And as you can see, the other illustrations, I'm going to put them a little bit like that so you can see them a little bit better. You can't even decipher what's going on in this illustration unless you're me and you know exactly beforehand. Same as here, but these illustrations are all actually, for example, this one. This is a really good example of an isometric illustration. And this is another really good example of drawing something, you know, in my way, the way I approach it. All these things here are basically things I am obsessed with. Those old, like, apothecary, pharmaceutical, you know, the old stores when you sold medicines, you know, like, you know, the ones. Anyway, they had those really big cabinets with a lot of compartments and a lot of shelvings, very detailed, you know, for medicines. And because I was so obsessed with those at that time, and now as well, of course, I would add those into the backgrounds, into the story, because then I can love this piece a lot more. And this picture is still not done, but I can show you how it looks in the actual illustration. As you can see, this piece is a lot more, it's a lot wider than this one, because this was just the design for the store, but I felt that it was not necessary to have the whole scene in the illustration to convey the message that I wanted to convey. But I have all the elements, the most important elements in both places. So I have the little table with the apple in both, very important. The characters are also already present in both pictures. So I'm kind of figuring out the basic first and then adding all the little details, especially on the shelving units. Now, another very important thing is that I'm trying to create some kind of human interaction or a character interaction in my picture. So I'm always trying to make sure that those characters are not just, posing and being pretty. I'm trying to make them have a character of their own. So for example, this girl sitting over here. So the girl over here, this is a girl who is working alongside the owner. And so she is the one who brings in all the merchandise. During the working hours, she's basically just sitting there doing nothing, but she is kind of observing how much everybody else is happy to see the things she brought, how they are amazed and how they are, enjoying it. And that makes her happy. And so I kind of had this idea that, she is just sitting there kind of resting after work, looking at how maybe this little girl is amazed by the apple. And perhaps this couple over here is, discussing something with the owner. And the owner said that, the girl is the one who actually acquired the item that they want to buy. And so maybe this boy over here is discussing with the fairy about purchasing another item. And there are new clients coming in and they are happy. And I really want to give those characters some kind of story in my head. Just a little one, just enough so that I can start caring for them. Now for my second example, I have something also quite interesting. And this is actually a very recent work of mine. I'm working on it at the moment. As you can see, I'm still in the sketching phase. And so I thought it would be a very good idea to kind of discuss a little bit how I do something for a person that's not personal, that's just not my own, that's for someone else. In this particular case, I'm working on a picture that's supposed to be a scene between two characters, and it is based on the hobbies of the two people I'm presenting. And so I kind of by reading what they like, I got those pictures in my head and I turned them into those tiny little thumbnails. I try to enlarge them for others when there are other people who have to view it. So in this case, I first scanned this and enlarged it in Photoshop. As you can see, these are really basic. And we have 3 scenes over here. The way I'm building it, as you can see, I'm starting with characters. I'm always starting with presenting some kind of interaction, because for me, that's kind of the most interesting part, even though I'm much more I enjoy much more the backgrounds and the little details. What really makes the illustration for me, what makes it interesting, is the interaction, is the story, is the little situation. And that's the biggest, I think, that's why we're illustrators, because we're illustrating some story. I always start with just a basic concept, just, little stick figures and basic, shapes, nothing really particularly detailed. And then what I will do is I will come back, and on top of that, I'm going to draw, a more detailed picture. So this is exactly the same pictures, that this one is more refined. They are just details being added constantly. So at this point, I'm deciding, okay, we have the characters, I like their poses, the story is there. Now what I can do to make the story more interesting. I imagine that this here is kind of like a bend in the cave. So there is a cave here, like a tunnel, and then it bends over there. And perhaps there are some people going there, pursuing those two Indiana Joneses. And perhaps, you know, there will be some light shining from that direction. I also thought that perhaps this thing will be shining, and so it will be illuminating the characters from this side. I imagined how the wall behind them would look like. Will it be dirt? Will it be stone? In this case, I wanted it to be stone, so it's more like a man-made cave, like a forgotten temple, perhaps. And then this one was more of I wanted something that was more down to earth, so it was believable, possible, but also unusual. This is something that happens during a trip. You know, there's a character here. I imagine that he's just holding a pose, holding a pose for this other character who is taking a picture of them. You know, there's some ruin, mosaic, just details that can be worked later on, but the basic idea is there. So what I usually do at this point, that I will make it bigger. So as you can see, I have the exact same sketches in a bigger version. It's really pixelated. And then I will go on top of that with this one, and I will start working on the details. Now, the last thing I can say, that the only thing that pops in my mind is how important research is for my pictures. In this case, in the case of the basic sketch, the idea was, you know, the couple I'm drawing here really like to visit the ruins of Greece. So I did a quick look. I had some pictures provided by them, but I also did a Google search on just the ruins in Greece and the places they visited to just see what caught my attention. And so I saw a mosaic there, and I just quickly drew it in. I didn't really go into details. I just looked at it, I saw mosaic, so I just made a little indication that in this place I would like to see a mosaic. And same for those columns. I saw a lot of those columns in this shape in the ruins. But I didn't really pay too much attention to how they looked like, because that's beside my point. They're not supposed to be photorealistic. They were just an indication that I wanted to see columns in that place. So, and also on the horizon, in the background, I pointed out different things that caught my attention. So I saw, for example, those kind of like, you know, families, groups of columns connected with the upper, like a beam. Forgive me my professional language here. And so I really thought it would look interesting to have those in the background, as well as different levels of hills. That's something that also caught my attention. In the foreground, I thought it would be really nice to have this group of rocks. They kind of created like a wall, and that also called my attention. I didn't really look into how it was built, or if it looked exactly the same. I just kind of wanted to put it in here so that I know that this is what I wanted, you know, this is what I wanted to appear in this place. Now that I'm actually doing this sketch in more detail, I actually paid more attention to the mosaic, and so I started, as you can see, with a circular mosaic, even though aren't that many circular, and this particular mosaic is nowhere in the pictures. This is something I made up from different elements from the pictures I've Googled, so that, you know, people who are watching it, they can say, oh, okay, this looks like ruins. It has this style that I'm looking for. I didn't really do much research for the initial sketch, just to kind of a quick glance, but I literally just have the Google page open with the different kind of ruins, different kind of search queues, just open for me to gather inspiration from. But yeah, this is how I approached this particular illustration. And it's always harder to draw for someone, because when you're drawing for yourself, you know exactly what you like and what you don't like. And when you draw for someone else, of course, you have to constantly pay attention to what they like. Of course, ideally, it's what you both like. And I never ever put anything out that I don't personally like, just because I feel it kind of ruins the whole illustration. I mean, when people come to me to draw something, you know, they come because they saw my pictures, the pictures I drew for myself. And so they expect the same level of energy that I put out in these illustrations. They expect the same amount of love and detail, and I really, really care for my illustrations. I really, really put a lot of interest in it. And so I need to put the same amount of interest in the illustration for someone else. So I will spend much more time. I spend actually a lot more time on sketches for other people. These come like that, like that. And these I will just sit hours on time just to finish a sketch, because it's really a struggle. It's a constant struggle with trying to decide if this is what the other person would like. So that's what I awkwardly have to say. I never know how to end those videos. I really hope that I have answered some of your questions. If you like this video, please hit the like button. It really helps a lot. It's really, really helpful. If you would like to see more, please subscribe. I always feel so awkward saying that, but unfortunately this is how the life looks like when you are creating for YouTube. If you would actually like to hear about something specifically, once again, please leave me a comment below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!